Today, I'm excited to speak with a powerhouse in the financial technology world. Sean LeDree is the CEO and mastermind behind Loop Investing Technologies. Loop is a financial technology company focused on making financial services more efficient for underbanked communities. Sean grew up on the south side of Chicago in Roseland. He has over a decade worth of experience as a registered advisor and has worked for companies like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley. Today, we learn more about how he is using his technology to help the community and how he will share a few tips that will help towards financial freedom. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Precise, thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here. Glad to always talk to another Roselandite, if you will.
Yes, sir.
I love my community. Wild hunters till I die. I
Wow,
put on
wow.
a suit and tie in
Yeah.
corporate, but when I'm back in on Michigan Avenue and when I'm back in the neighborhood, I always got to go back to old-fashioned donuts, man. That's my spot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's like 40 years in counting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. Definitely. Well, man, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm just going to jump right into this. I'm really excited about what I've been reading about the company and everything. But before we get into that, talk about, and specifically coming from Roseland, talk about what led you down the path of financial services.
Yeah, man, it's wild. So I remember growing up in Roseland and going on Michigan Avenue. My mother used to work at Gately's People's Furniture Store. Okay. So Gately's People, for those who are uninitiated, Gately's People used to be like, I remember when Roseland had a Gately's People, which was a full service department store. I remember when we had a movie theater. Yeah. I remember when Gately's People had the furniture store, which was on 118th in Michigan, which was a little bit further down from, 111th. And, for me, I have seen the slow but steady deterioration of Roseland. And it made me start thinking, like, why is it that I only have to why is it that when I go downtown, that's the only time that I can actually see, stores and see thriving and see revitalization? And so that really bothered me, right? And in addition, I remember growing up, and a lot of people now, you pull up your phone, you can look up a stock quote or things like that. I remember back in the day, you had to go to a public access station to actually see, a little ticker tape at the bottom,
at
right?
A specific time.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Right.
So I remember way back when financial, financial stocks and things weren't that readily accessible. And I had always been curious about that. So that curiosity plus the want and desire to actually help out the community really has driven me to this point.
Definitely. Now, we talk about that, and I understand like how important that is to the community. So we fast forward into 2021. Technology is amazing. Like, as you mentioned, right now you can go on your phone and pick a stock and look at how it's performing. So that brings me to our next question about Loop Investing Technologies. What is Loop Investing Technologies, and why did you create it?
Yeah, so Loop Investing Technologies, our goal is to help those individuals from communities give back to those communities that invested in them. So for me, Roseland helped raise me. I grew up, I make no qualms about it. Whatever you choose to believe in, that's fine. I'm a believer. I credit Salem Baptist Church of Chicago with helping me. What up, Salem? Hey, Salem. I credit Pastor Meeks and Salem for really keeping me out of trouble during my formative years. I joined Salem when I was in 8th grade, and honestly, it provided a safe environment for me. So, the idea of me wanting to give back to the Roseland community, apart from charity, really weighed on me. Right. So, the idea always is that we want the next generation to do better than us. That if you make it out of if you are able to go to a Northwestern or University of Illinois or DePaul, the idea is that if you came from Roseland, that you kind of move on, right? And that's what we kind of, we say. We don't expect those who graduate and move to come back to the hood, but the idea is that how do we give back to where we were raised, the people who helped formulate us, right? We talk about it takes a village. I think about, Salem. I think about all the people in Roseland who necessarily, help to get me to where I am today. How do I give back apart from charity? And there's not a way to do that. So I mentioned old-fashioned donuts, right? There should be a way so that institution, because it is an institution. Anybody who's ever had their glazed donuts, or if you wait past 9 o'clock and get the French cruller with the dipped in chocolate, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So from that standpoint,
so not to interrupt, but for the people who don't know, they actually still make their donuts in-house. So just
in-house, right. Every morning, this guy's up at 5 o'clock. I remember I used to take the bus all the way from 131st to Hyde Park High School on 63rd and Stony. And I would go past there, and I had to get up at the crack of dawn because I had like other, extracurricular things that I had to be at Hyde Park for at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So I was on the bus at like 5 o'clock, and I would see that my man in the store, in the window, before the store was open, making donuts, right? Yep. By hand. And so the idea is that this is an institution. We know they have a great product. Why don't they have, additional stores? Now, yep. I don't know. I can't speak on their specific situation, but I know that if Old-Fashioned Donuts, and if I'm just using my imagination, if Old-Fashioned Donuts was in Evanston or was on, in the Gold Coast, do you think there would only be one Old-Fashioned Donuts? I'm guessing probably not. I'm guessing there would probably be a chain. So we created Loop with the idea of having individuals who literally are serious about getting their money together, but more importantly, want to find ways to actually invest from where they come from, apart from charity. I mean, and we're doing two things here, Precise. We're being able to, number one, give back, but then also get a healthy return, because again, this isn't charity, right? Mm-hmm. And so we talk about, these small businesses, they need capital. And unfortunately, there's so many, brick and mortar banks that are in our communities that necessarily aren't providing us the capital to actually thrive.
Definitely. Now, along with that great work with respect to the community, there was also mention of you creating an app. Can you talk a little bit about what the app is and what the functionality will be?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, one of the things that, in my time as kind of coming up and matriculating and working on Wall Street, I have a lot of friends that I went to school with, high school, I went to college with, that reach out to me and say, hey, Sean, I got questions about this. And one of the things that's always come up is that, the number of apps that they have. So if they want to budget, they go to Mint. If they want to invest, they go to Stash, or they go to Robinhood or Acorns, right? And if they actually want to bank, they go to Chime. And so it's like all of these different apps. And so for us, our goal is to provide a one-stop experience of where you're able to actually have all of your financial services needs met through one app. Right. Mm-hmm. And then also, too, one of the things that we are really focused on is the financial education and literacy component, because for me, I think the gravest thing that is out there now is that because there's so much financial apps and abilities for you to actually trade your own money, mm-hmm. there's nobody saying that, hey, maybe you should or maybe you shouldn't do this. Right. There's those stop signs. And so there have been tragic stories that we've heard about individuals being able to trade options and do whatnot, but there's no safeguards in place. And so what the app is meant to do, first and foremost, we're going to release it by late January, so late this month or early February, right in time for Black History Month. Okay. The first thing what we're going to do is focus in on financial budgeting and financial education. And so with the financial budgeting piece, before you can actually invest, you need to know how much you're able to do so. And one of the things precise that we found, and then you look at any behavioral studies, it will tell you that when you do not have a defined goal, or, you are more likely to actually withdraw your money until completion, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So mm-hmm. I believe that we need to have a purpose for every time that we're investing. That money needs to be earmarked. Why? Because we know far too often that in our community, we're such a giving and loving community, so that, if Junebug, gets caught up and he gets arrested, we got to find money to bail him out, right? We don't know if he's guilty or not, but we got to find a way. And Sister Martha, her pipes just busted, but we got to get a plumber, right? And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, sometimes we got to be a little bit selfish for ourselves. We got to say, hey, look, I put this money away for a down payment on my new house. I put this money away for a trip, a vacation that I have been neglecting for the last 20 years, right? And it's okay to do that. And so what our app is going to allow people to do is to be able to see, buckets. How much are you spending for the things that you absolutely need to spend on? How much are you spending for the things that you actually want but kind of really don't need? And then how much are you saving, right? And make it easy as possible. And then the last piece, I'll say this precise, is the financial education piece. Mm-hmm. We know that our people are not a monolith. Everyone does not learn in the same way. We have, my sisters who are millennials, they like to text me. They text me and ask me a question. I'm going to call them back and they're going to be like, hey, why are you calling me? I just texted you. Responding back, right? Mm-hmm. So we try to create a way to help educate people with knowing that we have diversity of learning experiences. So we have a chat bot. So for our 140 character crowd, you can engage with our chat bot. For those who are a little bit old school, like myself, we're going to have videos and we're going to have different posts and different blogs and content. But however you learn, we want to have something for everyone so that you don't feel like this is too much for you.
Right. So, Sean, what I heard a lot in what you just said was education, mm-hmm. planning, and really being purposeful with the decisions you make with regards to your finances. So with that being said, what would you say are the top 3 things an individual can do to help change their financial situation?
That is a great question, precise, and I often get it. So the first thing I would say is, number 1, pull your credit report. It's painful. And there are a lot of times where there was a young lady who I was speaking to, and she said, I know my credit's bad. And I was like, okay, well, let's pull the report and let's take a look at it. Let's get into it. She's just like, well, I'm hoping if I don't look at it, it will get better. And a lot of us have that ostrich mentality. Yeah. We put our head in the sand, it's going to go away magically. No, it ain't going away. So from a standpoint, pull your credit report. The best way that you can show self-love is to, one Friday night, if you're single, one Friday night, light the candles, play some Barry, some Barry White in the background, some Teddy Pendergrass, sit your butt down, open up your laptop and go to creditkarma.com and go look at your credit report. That's the best way of self-love that you can show.
Or Chris Brown for the millennials.
Or Chris Brown, right? Chris Brown or somebody like that, right? And so Ty Dolla, right? So from that standpoint, you want to be able to know what is in your credit report, good, bad, or indifferent. You want to be able to say, okay, these are the things I need to work on. That's the first thing, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is actually taking a look, creating a budget, right? But before you even create a budget, pull all of your banking records, or try as best as you possibly can to look at your cash flows from the last 3 months. And when people say cash flows, it's just a fancy way of saying how much are you spending versus how much you're earning, right? Because the thing about it is that if I'm earning every month $2,000, but I'm spending $2,200, I got a deficit of $200 every month. Yep. And by the end of the year, I'm going to have a deficit of $4,800. That's bad. I mean, actually $2,400. Sorry about that. But that's bad, right? And so you want to be able to say, am I spending more than I necessarily should? Right. And then am I putting myself in a situation of where I'm tapping credit card lines, or I'm getting a payday loan, right? Or I'm asking, mama and them for money to help tide me over. Right. So that's the thing. So that's the second thing, start to look at start to look at where your inflows and your outflows are going. And the last thing is this: try to create a budget. right? Try to create an actual budget of where you're saying now that I know where my inflows are going, inflows and outflows, let me create a simple budget. The most simplest budgets that you can create is called like one bucket for saving, one bucket for your wants, and one bucket for your needs. So typically in a plain vanilla, you would spend probably about, call it 40% of whatever dollar that you're getting after tax on the things that you absolutely need. When we talk about need, we're talking about, transportation to get back and forth to work, utilities, right? Paying your mortgage, your rent, things like that, things that you cannot live without, such as food, right? When we start talking about wants, it gets into sort of like the gray area, right? Like case in point, it might be really necessary, quote unquote, for you to work out. But do you really need a gym membership at Equinox or Planet Fitness, right? Can you just work out at home in the crib? I'm not going to make that decision for you, but that's kind of like a need, right? But then, so you got your bucket for your wants. Say that that's 40%, and then say that your needs are 40%, and then your wants, let's say that we call that 40% as well. So that's 80% of your income. But now you got 20% of where you're saving. And so honestly, every dollar that you get, you should be stacking away 20 cents at every rip, right? Putting that away. Because what happens is, Precise, is that we too often, when we work at jobs that have a 401k, and it was so funny, I was just reading an article about 60% of all individuals who have a 401k have taken out or accessed it or taken a loan out during the pandemic because they lowered the actual fees and the penalties. The problem is that when you tap into your 401k and you leave your job, whether you've been let go or whether you have a new job, you have 60 days to pay back that loan. And a lot of times, people withdraw 10,000, 20,000, right? 50, do you have 60 days in order to pay that back? If you don't have that liquidity, that's going to become a real problem because now you're talking about an additional tax burden. But so in summary, the three things that you can do is pull your credit report, take a hard look at your inflows and your outflows. And then number three, sit down and actually create a budget.
Wow, that's actually a very detailed list, and I appreciate you sharing that. That is a lot to take in. And I like what you mentioned, looking at your credit report first, because what I feel like happens is that we walk around with these blinders on, and if we don't look left or right, we don't know what's going on, or to the left or to the right of us. So take that moment, kind of, taking a sip of wine as you do it, and being able to see what's actually going on. It provides you an opportunity to dig in and correct things that may even even paying $30 towards something or calling a credit agency and setting up a plan. All of these things can happen just by taking that moment just to go see what's going on. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
And now I'm listening to you speak, and clearly you're a well-read person. So what books would you recommend to individuals who are getting into this?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a number of things. So, for me, I believe in sort of like the tried and true, ways of building long-lasting wealth, slow but steady, right? So there's a book out there called The Way of the Turtle. It talks about how to invest slowly but surely. It's by a phenomenal. The name of the actual guru is slipping my mind right now, but he literally took like 5 or 6, like a group of individuals who are just like you and me, right? No investment background whatsoever, and really kind of taught them how to trade, and they've always overperformed, right? So that's one book that I recommend. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? That's always a tried and true staple, as well as The Millionaire Next Door. And the one thing that you will find with all of these books is this: patience. Too oftentimes we it's just our human nature to want to try to catch up to some goal because we saw so-and-so do well, or we heard so-and-so did this. So-and-so don't pay your rent. So-and-so don't have the same issues that you have. We all have our own unique issues and problems, and therefore we have to run our own race, right? What, the great poet Jay-Z said, what I eat doesn't make you go to the washroom, right? So no matter how I'm doing from an investment standpoint, that has nothing to do with you. And one of the things that I think about that's such a travesty is that we feel more empowered to go into social media and ask total strangers about investing tips than we do about asking actual professionals, right? And there's no shortcuts to investing. There's no shortcuts to building wealth. And one of the things that I would say is that, I always say that, one of the great quotes from Warren Buffett said that, to call a day trader an investor is like calling a one-night stand a romantic, right? That from that standpoint, when you invest, and these are some simple things that I always share. When you are investing, if you cannot literally go around your household and say, I have purchased from this company, I have gone to their stores, I support their cause, I know what they're about, then, you really can't make an intelligent decision. And so a lot of people will say, Sean, it don't take all that. You're right. You can try to pull Wall Street research reports and spend about 20 hours a week trying to read through the reports, trying to go through and look at the fundamentals, looking at the 52-week high and low versus, where the average trading stock is and trying to see, where they are from a technical standpoint. Are there candles and things like that? Or look at how the options are playing. Like I can talk all that all day long. Right. And it means nothing, because here's the thing. When you invest in a company, what you are saying to them, here is my money. I believe in you. If you do not believe in a company, do not invest in it. If you don't know enough about a company, do not invest in it. If it's not something that you follow or something that you really care about, don't invest in it. Like my personal portfolio has done well because I'm investing in companies that I know about, that I use their product. And look, don't worry about when I'm investing. Look at the things that you're buying, right? And I say this as an example, if your phone is made by Apple, your reading device is made by Apple. If your computer says Mac, right, and your earpiece actually say AirPods, right, then when you tell me, I just heard that Samsung is coming out with a brand new TV, and I think they're gonna double in stock, I'm gonna look at you like you have three heads.
Right.
Everything about you says Apple ecosystem.
Right.
The only thing that you're not doing is investing as a actual investor in the company. You already purchased their products, so you know firsthand that their products are good. The only thing that you haven't done is actually said, hey, I'm a shareholder, right? So every time I'm buying these products, I'm actually making money too. And that's my goal for everyone, is to really kind of think about investing as personal ownership. And then also, last but not least, precise, that you can see yourself holding on to that investment for longer than 12 months. Almost like you should never invest unless you think that you can have that money in that company for 5 to 10 years. Why? Because dividends, all of these things help to create more investment in that stake, right? If the company is paying dividends and you reinvest it, your 1 share goes to 2 share, your 2 shares goes to 4 shares, so on and so forth, right? But if you're just investing for like 6 months 6 weeks or 6 days, then guess what's happening? Every time you pull that money out, there's also a charge, right? Yep. So you're paying higher fees. And then let's not forget, there's a difference in terms of how you're going to be taxed by the government. Yep. Versus short-term versus long-term. And so my in summation, you want to invest with the idea that I'm making a long-term investment in this company and I believe in it. And here's the reasons why I'm doing so.
Sean, you just dropped bars. You just dropped some bars. Seriously. If you're out there wearing some Nikes or some Jordans right now, this should make some sense to you. These are things that you should invest in, from the food to the technology to the chips inside of your phone, just all of that. I really appreciate that, brother. I really appreciate that clear speak. Definitely. Yeah. Now, with that being said, and the great work that you're doing, what inspires Sean?
What inspires me is, the idea that you talk about Dr. King's legacy, right? You talk about Dr. King's legacy of economic justice, right? What really motivates me is that, in my head, I have $1 million challenge. Now, I probably wouldn't pay it, but let's just go there, Rudy, right? If you can find me a pawn shop or a payday loan, or a check cash in place in some place like, the North Shore, right? Barrington, right? Skokie, right?
And for all my people, these are very affluent areas in the Chicagoland area, just so you know where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But there's no shortage of them in Roseland, right? There's no shortage of them in Pullman, right? Or the west side of Chicago. And it's a damn shame. And so one of the things that Dr. King really wanted to focus on with the whole Poor People's Movement is transitioning. Yes, look, having voter rights and desegregation, that's table stakes, right? Like that, like we believe that we have been endowed with certain unalienable gifts from the Creator, right? That all men are created equal, right? And that's just the starting line. But like, to move it forward, how do we handle this wealth inequality, right? How do we tackle this income gap? How do we tackle the fact that there is no money to revitalize our neighborhoods until gentrification takes place?
Right.
And so that's what really motivates me, because we know that together, like the whole old saying goes that, an open palm, if you try to hit somebody, it's not going to do anything. All you can do is slap them. But if you close your fist up, you can actually do some damage, right? What we want to do is be able to create a platform where, it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you're low to middle income. If you say, hey, look, I got this $5 and I want $4 to actually go into the stock market, and hey, Loop, we want you to take care of it, but this other $1, I want it to go back to my community. I want it to go back to Roseland, right? You should have the choice to do so. Precisely, we don't have that opportunity, and because we have never, Black and Latino communities have never had really that ability to say or have a say at the game or have a seat at the table. We've constantly seen our neighborhoods become the blight and constantly been forced out, right? We want to change that narrative, and that's what drives me.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate everything, the knowledge that you're sharing, Loop Investing Technologies. And I'm looking forward to this app dropping at the top of Black History Month so we can clearly show our people how to get this done. Are there any words that you would like to leave in parting? And also, how can people get in contact with you?
Yes. And that's a great thing. That's a great question. So I'll start with the last first. Go to loopinvesting.com. And if you go to loopinvesting.com, you'll see some great content that we have. We're sharing information of how do you actually save money? How do you create a budget when you're broke, right? We are not, here's the thing. I grew up in Roseland. Right. I remember standing on the bus stop in the freezing cold waiting for the 34 South Michigan when it was like 20 degrees outside and that hawk was biting me in the butt. Right. So you're not talking to somebody who just is like, I don't understand. I know what it's like to actually eat, syrup sandwiches and to drink whatever you have in the refrigerator. So it's hard out here, and what we want to do is wherever you are, whether you're struggling to make ends meet, or you kind of got a little bit together, we have something there for everyone. So if you go to loopinvesting.com, and then also to sign up, we won't send any spam to you. We also have 7 ways that you can actually save money now. If you sign up today, you'll actually get a copy of that. One thing that I will tell anybody is that nobody has it all together. And that even the person who looks like they have it all together had to start from somewhere. So let your somewhere be today. Don't put it off for another day, another minute. Start right now. We talked about how to actually build sort of these good practices. Pull your credit report. Look at your budget. Like look at your income and your outflows, right? And then then create a budget. Because here's the thing: these are just basic things that anybody can do to get them on the path of financial stability. And you can do it. I know that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And these things aren't hard, but they're designed to make it really complicated. And that's what our purpose is for, to uncomplicate these things and really help people create generational wealth.
Yes. Sean LeDree, Rolling Out family. This is Sean LeDree. please make sure to reach out to Loop Investing Technologies and get some more of those bars he's been dropping with us today. Sean, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us. We really appreciate you. Looking forward to the app, and we will be touching base once again.
Thank you, Precise. Appreciate it.
Peace, brother.
Peace.